We are live on the Chef Girl Nutrition Facebook page with a live Tuesday video. Typically, I'm doing a live cooking demo, but today I wanted to switch gears a little bit and talk about a timely topic as we are heading into these next couple weeks of the holiday season. The holidays, which is a time for different kinds of sweets and treats and just more, indulgent holiday meals. It's a time where maybe you're off from work, you're spending more time with the family, so there's snacking going on during the day, right? It's just kind of a time that we, let go a little bit and we're more relaxed in general with a lot of things. And so that can also happen with your eating habits. And so just the anticipation of that can bring up a lot of emotions like stress and anxiety and guilt around food. You can have this kind of anxiety leading up to knowing that there's going to be cookies around. And of course, this year is a little bit different because you don't have necessarily like your office doesn't have, all these holiday treats that maybe you're usually tempted by. You're not going to all your friends' houses and things like that. But hopefully this is the only year that it's like that. And so this is a topic that will always be around, right? It's always going to be a thing. As long as the diet industry is a thing, this kind of topic is always going to be a thing. And our relationship with food is something that we're working on our whole life, right? Your relationship with food is a lifelong relationship. You always got to eat. So we may as well try and repair what might be broken in our relationship with food so that we can move forward in a happy and positive way and not have these feelings of guilt and shame and anxiety related to food. I talk about this because I love food and I want you to love food. I don't want food to be a thing that burdens you with, emotional distress. We have enough of that, right? And especially in this year, we certainly don't need any more of that, and we don't need to carry it with us into the new year. Sometimes just in the pursuit of weight loss and in the pursuit of wanting to be that kind of thin ideal that we see, it can take a real toll on our mental health without us even realizing it. So all of the, anxiety that might come from going out to eat with friends or something like the holidays, and you don't know what's going to be there, and is there going to be anything there that's allowed on my diet, or kind of anticipating that you're going to eat bad foods, and how am I going to compensate for that afterwards, and all of these kinds of thoughts that go on in our heads. You may have a super filling Christmas dinner, and then have one of those like Thanksgiving, like you need to unbutton your pants and you feel super uncomfortable, and now you're starting to feel guilty and you're like, oh, I really didn't even like that cake, like why did I eat that, or I really didn't eat that second piece of steak. Like you just start having all of these thoughts circulating in your head, and blame yourself for simply enjoying your holiday meal. And so that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. I'm going to give you 3 tips to help you just enjoy the holiday meal without the guilt, and in a way that still feels balanced, right? So a guilt-free and balanced holiday. So if that sounds good, stick with me and I will go through these few tips here. All right, so tip number 1. Food is more than just energy, right? Food is more than just calories or points. If you count points on something like Weight Watchers, right? Food is more than just numbers. It's more than just calories. Food serves so many different purposes, and I talk about this a lot. I've posted about it a few times. Food serves so many purposes in our life, and the holidays are the epitome of that. The holidays are all about tradition and memories, right? And so much of that lies within food. So maybe it's something like a family, cookie recipe that you make every year. And maybe you have a memory of cooking it with your mom, or maybe you have a memory of cooking it with your kids. You don't want to taint those kinds of traditions and memories with all these diety thoughts that suddenly make you feel like, well, man, those cookies that, I love that are a family tradition are bad for me and I shouldn't be eating them. If you're going to go through the process, part of course, what I talk about is helping you get in the kitchen more and cook more, right? And those two things, cooking the food and then enjoying the food, they go hand in hand, right? So that's why I talk about things like this too, because you can't fully immerse yourself in the cooking process and truly enjoy the food that you're working with, truly enjoy exploring new flavors and textures and trying new foods and exploring your own creativity in the kitchen. You can't fully immerse yourself in that if you have a broken relationship with food. So if you're in the kitchen, even with your kids, cooking this family, cookie recipe or whatever it is, maybe you have an image in your head of what that traditional family recipe is for you, or just what a traditional holiday looks like for your family, right? You can't fully immerse yourself in that experience if you are going to feel guilt or shame for enjoying those things that only come around once a year, right? Those Christmas cookies only come around once a year. That's something that I talked about with the latkes last week. It's not something that we need to healthify, right? We should just enjoy the tradition of the latkes. And, I have memories of making the latkes with my mom in the kitchen. And that's the memory that I want to keep carrying forward, right? That's the tradition that I want to keep carrying forward. I don't want it to be tainted with me feeling guilty about eating them the one time of year that they come around. So really, back to the tip, going on a little tangent here, back to the tip, really, it's just important to remember at this time of year that food serves a lot of different purposes in our lives, and that's one of the reasons why we love food so much. And that's not something to feel guilty about or feel shame about, or have to feel like you have to apologize for enjoying those holiday treats and those holiday traditions, especially when they only come around a couple times a year, right? And so allowing yourself to appreciate food for its other purposes helps you to improve your relationship with food. It helps you to appreciate food for all of these things that it serves, all these purposes that it serves, right? It's social, it's tradition, it's culture, it's fun, right? It's just joy, it's pleasure, and that's a perfectly okay reason to eat something, even if it doesn't, fit into your diet, or even if you think it's not allowed, right? Which we'll talk about that all foods are allowed, right? Nothing is truly off limits. It's really about changing that mindset. And in this case, with tip number 1, accepting that food serves these other purposes in your life and just appreciating it for that. And appreciating that at the holiday season, this is the purpose that food is serving for you. And you can reflect on that, like really reflect on that. What does the holiday what do holiday foods do for you? What purpose does that serve in your life? Think about a memory or a tradition around the holidays with food in your family, in your life, and just kind of reflect on that. Reflect on how food serves a different purpose at the holiday season than on a regular day, right? Okay, tip number 2. Tip number 2 is to eat normally. This is a huge thing, and it's something that comes up around Thanksgiving, right? Around any holidays, right? Most holidays or any, special occasions involve a more indulgent meal or something that you wouldn't eat just on a regular weeknight, right? So it's very common and it's tempting to think that that you have a big meal coming up later in the day. So you decide to restrict yourself all day to save up the calories for that big meal at the end of the day, likely so that you don't feel guilty, right? You're kind of doing it as like a defense mechanism. Like, I don't want to feel guilty for eating this big meal later, so I'm going to just not eat all day so I don't feel guilty later. And this backfires, right? Because if you've now restricted yourself from eating all day long, one, you are more likely to overeat later. You're more likely to do the exact thing that you're trying to avoid because now you haven't eaten all day and your body's starving. And two, you're probably going to be cranky all day. And it's a holiday. You don't want to be cranky all day on a holiday. I don't know, you probably can't read the sign behind me, but it's basically alluding to being hangry. And I suffer from the hangries, as I'm sure a lot of you do, right? So it's never a good idea to starve yourself all day unless it's a holiday and you are fasting for a religious reason. Otherwise, we always want to eat, even on a special occasion day, even on a holiday, eat normally. And it might not be a fully normal day of eating. You might have like snacks and cheese plates and all these kinds of things where you're not eating like a fully assembled meal. But what I'm getting at here is don't restrict yourself all day to, be able to eat a big meal later. Just eat like you normally would. Try to, get some veggies in if you can. Like you can still try and make some good decisions. And still try to get some nutritious foods in during the day. You don't have to have this all or nothing mentality, right? That's what really comes to bite us in the ass, is having this all or nothing mentality. And if you've been on and off diets for years, that's the kind of mentality that you wind up with, is this all or nothing feeling. Like if you have veered off of your diet at all, right? If you've eaten something that wasn't allowed, if you just feel like you've done something wrong because you broke a rule on your diet, we have this, it's just this human nature, this human condition to just be like, well, F it, right? Like I just screwed up. I may as well just now finish screwing up, right? And that's like a huge mentality that comes up at the holidays, is to, it's the last 2 weeks of the year. And so we kind of get into this mindset of, all right, I'm just going to go like wild for these last 2 weeks. I'm just going to eat whatever I want. I'll start my diet in January, right? How many times have you said, I'll start my diet in January? It's why New Year's resolutions are a thing, right? And getting out of that all or nothing mentality is huge, not just for the holidays, but again, in repairing a broken relationship with food and getting to that place where you have more flexibility in your lifestyle. You have more freedom. You don't feel, that you're allowed to have, these more what would be considered unhealthy foods, right? You know that you're allowed to eat these other foods and you can still come back tomorrow and get back on, get back into your habits. And so just a couple other tips around eating normally. You also want to just move your body normally, right? We also have this feeling of needing to overcompensate by over-exercising, right? So now you've skipped breakfast, you've gone to the gym for 2 hours because you are trying to compensate for this meal that you're going to have later in the day. Eat breakfast, move as you normally would. Just accept that this is a holiday, this is a special occasion, this is a day that I want to be fully present with my family, my loved ones, that I want to fully, enjoy these meals, these dishes that I look forward to all year long. I want to just be able to be present and relax and not have food at the top of my mind all day long. And if you skip breakfast and don't eat all day, I promise you, you will have food on your mind all day long because you are hungry. Don't do that to yourself. Okay. And also, when you are eating at the holiday dinner, whatever it is, eat the food that you actually love, right? Don't just, again, that all or nothing mentality. Don't just be like, I'm just going to eat everything here because I've decided I'm just going to eat everything and nothing matters right now because I'm going to start again in January. Like, if you have that mentality and you go in and you just eat everything, you don't even appreciate it or enjoy it for what it is. So if there are those traditional foods that you're looking forward to, there are those holiday dishes that you look forward to all year, eat those. Eat the foods that you really love and really enjoy them. Like, really be mindful of it. You can practice mindfulness even during a holiday. Really be mindful of what you're eating so that you really enjoy it, so that it's really worth it to you, right? And you'll feel much better about it than if you just raw, Cookie Monster everything into your mouth and you didn't even take a minute to even enjoy it, right? You're going to feel a lot better about yourself if you feel good about what you ate, because you know that it made you feel good inside. Truly, that sounds a little bit corny, but that's the truth. If it made you feel good inside, if it made you feel warm and fuzzy because it's the holidays and you ate something that means something to you and you fully enjoy that experience, you're going to feel a lot better than if you just know that you Cookie Monstered it all, and then you're going to feel like you just binged, which leads to you feeling like you need to over restrict. Okay. Tip number 3. Remember that each day is a new day, right? So all these tips kind of tie together into, the same big picture here, which is that every day is a new day, every week is a new week, every month is a new month, and you have to eat forever. You have to eat for your whole life. This isn't, let me just get through to, this date. Let me just get through to this month. This is your whole life that we're talking about. You're in a relationship with food for your whole life. So what you eat on one day, or what you eat for the next 2 weeks, right? Even what you eat for the next month, or what you've eaten for the past 9 months or whatever it's been that we've been in a pandemic, right? People are feeling guilty about pandemic weight gain and the snacking that they've been doing during the pandemic. These past 9 months or these next 2 weeks don't define you. They don't define you. They don't define your health. And literally every day is a new day. Your body wakes up in the morning ready for a new day. You don't need to, just as you don't need to restrict yourself from eating the whole day before your Christmas meal, you don't need to restrict yourself the whole day after your Christmas meal either. You don't need to over-exercise the whole day after your Christmas meal. You can wake up the next day and carry on with how you ate the day before Christmas, right? You can wake up the next day and carry on with your typical healthy eating habits. You don't need to feel like you need to compensate for a more indulgent day, especially when it's the holidays, right? This is the long game, right? And that's why so many diets, as we're talking about being on and off different diets in the dieting industry, that's why these diets don't usually last, right? If they worked, you wouldn't need to start another one. So, I'll hear somebody say, oh yeah, keto really worked well for me, or yeah, Weight Watchers always works well for me. But then what happened? Like, there's always like a but then, right? So if it worked, then now what, right? Why do you need to start another diet? If it worked, why do you need to start a new diet? These diets are designed to work for you short term, or to get you back on track, right? To get you to a point where you feel like now you can do it on your own, but you haven't actually been equipped with the tools and strategies to implement into your unique life to actually carry it on your own. So that's why so many of these diets don't actually last long term. The biggest tip that I can give you in talking about these, tips for having a guilt-free holiday season is to stay flexible, right? So most of these diet plans are so rigid, or there's rules around them. There's rules about, what times you should eat, what foods you can or cannot eat, what foods are good or bad foods, how many grams of this should you have, how many calories can you have a day, how many points can you have a day. You're, glued to your food tracker. All these things, they're so rigid. And so that in itself causes a lot of the anxiety and stress around the holidays, because you're thinking, I don't know what food choices are going to be there, and if they're going to fit into my diet, and how am I going to input the cheese plate into my food tracker, right? What am I going to say? I had 5 tiny cubes of cheese, just thinking about things like that. You want to have flexibility. You want to be able to eat spontaneously and not have to worry about it. You want to be able to just go into a holiday and just enjoy it. And like I said, just be present. And you don't want to have to be thinking about how you're going to have to compensate for this meal that you just ate. And so really being able to develop this flexible lifestyle and this flexible mindset, and getting rid of the all or nothing mentality that dieting has likely ingrained in you. And again, I say this as I'd say most adults, especially most adult women, have been subject to diets, because that's what we're made to believe, that you're not good if you're not on a diet, right? Like, you're not taking care of yourself if you're not on a diet. You're not taking care of yourself if you're not thin like a model. And it's just not true. You're taking care of yourself if you are aware of your mental health, right? And you're appreciating your mental health as much as you are your physical health, and you're appreciating that this all or nothing mentality is damaging for your mental health. And so, of course, all of this is easier said than done. And these are just tips and thoughts that I hope, get your mind moving a little bit, and I hope set you up for less of this, emotional toll going into the holiday season. But if you do need more support in this area, if you do feel like you are ready to stop these diets, right? You're ready to ditch the diets, you're ready to get off the yo-yo dieting cycle, you're ready to create sustainable habits that actually work for your lifestyle and for your goals, because everyone's lifestyle and everyone's health goals are different. Everyone's food preferences are different, right? Everybody is unique and different. And so if you want to find the sustainable habits for you, you're not going to find that in another fad diet. You're not going to find that in MyFitnessPal, right? You're not going to find that in these kinds of programs. If you do need more support and you do want more personalized guidance, that's what I'm here for. So if that is something that you want to talk about before, heading into the new year, or, to get started in the new year, to get yourself back off on the right foot, to reestablish some healthy habits that may have gotten a little bit derailed, because 2020 has been 2020. And like I said, even though there's nothing wrong with whatever has gone on for the last 9 months, you might be feeling not your best, right? You might be feeling like you want to get back into the kinds of habits you had established before the pandemic, so that you can feel, more vibrant, have more energy, whatever it is, whatever your goals are. I would be happy to chat with you about that, and about how I can help support you in, reestablishing those healthy habits in the new year. And we can talk about what that might look like. So absolutely feel free to send me a message, and we can talk about that more. That's all of my tips. Number 1 is that we should appreciate food for the different purposes that it provides in our life. And the holidays are a great example of how food serves the purpose of tradition, of family, of love, of joy, of memories, and we should appreciate it for that. Number 2 is to eat normally. Don't restrict yourself all day. Don't overcompensate. Just eat normally. And moving into tip number 3, because each day is a new day. Each week is a new week. Each month is a new month. And you are in this relationship with food for the long haul. So appreciate the food for what it is, enjoy the food that you truly want to enjoy at the holiday season, and just move on and just settle back into your typical daily habits once the holidays have passed. So that's all I have for you today with our tips for a guilt-free and balanced holiday season. So with that, I wish you a very, very, very Merry Christmas if you are celebrating Christmas, and also a Happy New Year. We are finally making it out of 2020, so I hope that the new year brings you joy and peace after this year, and that we can start to find some calm and normalcy again.